Deep in the heart of the Appalachian Mountains, there was a cave no one dared to enter. Locals whispered about it, how it twisted into the earth like the throat of a beast, swallowing anyone who ventured too far. Ethan was a thrill seeker, always chasing the next adrenaline rush. When he heard the stories of the cursed cave, he laughed it off. He'd explored countless caverns before, some just as dangerous. A cave couldn't scare him. With only a flashlight, a rope, and a single bottle of water, Ethan descended into the mouth of the cave one late afternoon. The daylight dimmed quickly as he moved deeper. The walls narrowed, forcing him to crouch and slide through passages that felt like the bones of a giant creature long forgotten. Hours passed, and the maze of tunnels only seemed to stretch endlessly. His sense of direction faltered, but he pressed on. He told himself he could find his way back. His breath echoed off the cold stone walls, and the air grew thinner. The light from his flashlight flickered, a weak beam struggling to push back the pressing darkness. Then Ethan heard it, a soft rustling sound, like the scrape of nails on rock. He spun around, flashing the light behind him. Nothing. The tunnels were empty, silent as a tomb. But the feeling lingered, a creeping sensation that something was there, something watching him from just beyond the reach of his light. He tried to brush it off, but the sound followed him, growing louder. Now it wasn't just rustling, it was breathing. Shallow, labored breaths coming from the darkness. Panic swelled in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. There were no animals this deep in the cave, he thought. It had to be his imagination, right? But the breathing grew closer. Ethan's heart raced, and he started to run, squeezing through narrow crevices, stumbling over jagged rocks. He no longer cared about the way out, he just needed to get away. But the faster he ran, the louder the breathing became, as if whatever was following him was always just behind, just out of sight. His flashlight flickered again, and this time it died completely, plunging him into pitch blackness. He stopped, gasping for air, his heart pounding in his ears. He fumbled for his phone, desperate for any light, but his hands were shaking too much to hold on to it. It slipped from his grip, clattering onto the stone floor, its screen shattering with a sickening crack. Ethan crouched in the dark, trying to slow his breathing, trying to listen. The sound of the creature had stopped, but the silence was worse. He felt the cold press of the cave all around him, as if the walls themselves were closing in. And then, something touched him. A hand, cold, skeletal, brushed against his shoulder. Ethan froze, every muscle in his body screaming to move, to run, but he couldn't. His breath hitched in his throat as the hand tightened its grip, pulling him toward the wall. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. The cave seemed to swallow his voice just as it had swallowed him. And as the darkness wrapped around him, he realized he was no longer alone. The breathing was all around him now, countless voices in the black, whispering, laughing. And then, in the depths of the cave, Ethan understood. He was never meant to leave.
No one ever did.
Please, like, share, comment, and subscribe.